Hello everyone, and welcome to my table. And today we're talking about one of my biggest fandom / hyperfixations, Kingdom Hearts. Now, Kingdom Hearts is a huge series with many entries, and was made by a collaboration done by Disney and Square Enix, being a joke between the two companies for a long time before eventually being pursued. The original Kingdom Hearts came out in 2002, and it's been history since then. The legacy of the Keyblade began from there, and has gained over 5 more games in the series before the end of the Dark Seeker saga in Kingdom Hearts 3 in January of 2019. I remember standing outside a GameStop I drove an hour to because they were the closest GameStop to me doing a midnight release. It was cold, I tell ya. The day before, I brought my entire computer setup to my grandma's house. Like a full desktop computer, monitors, all of that, so I could live stream the game as soon as I got it. And I was very happy with it. Now that I got some gushing about Kingdom Hearts out of the way, we can now talk about D&D, specifically the Kingdom Hearts D&D homebrew I made. We will start with the Nobody race. Nobodies are kind of a complicated race that have some special features. When it comes to increasing ability scores, you increase one score by 2 and one score by 1. This freedom is given because nobodies can come from, well, anybody. Anybody with a strong enough spirit, that is. Now, I had to guess when it came to nobody's ages, so I guess from how Terranort did not age as a nobody and Marluxia did the same, I guess that they do not age normally, if at all. Nobodies for alignment are very neutral entities at first, because they're usually blank slates when it comes to memories when they are made, unless they're influenced by others. They tend to stay in that neutral state, with people like Roxas being shown when he first is brought in Traverse Town. Now their walking speed and size are dependent on other factors, specifically their original race. Nobodies can come from any race, from gnomes to Goliaths to anthropomorphic ducks. I'm looking at you, Donald! So you would have to choose your race your character would look like before they were a nobody. You choose a race you started out with from one of you feature on your race, basically stating what I just said. Next, you have 60 feet of dark vision and gain the in-between light and dark race feature. With this, you gain proficiency in deception and persuasion because most nobodies are very good at deceiving and persuading. I mean, look at the organization. Next, we have the empty heart feature, which makes you immune to spells that would affect your emotional state and things like charm emotions, enthrall, heroism, and spells of that sort. I would say it has to be up to you and your DM to make a solid list of spells that you cannot be affected by. However, if you want to do something for flavor, which I suggest, I would recommend taking this race feature away if a nobody grows a heart. You know, gains emotions, connections, etc. Lastly, there is strong will, which acts pretty much the same as restless endurance, except with a constitution saving throw of 8 plus the damage taken. Now we get to the main meat of the chicken, or the duck, or the PDF. The Keyblade Wielder class. The Keyblade Wielder is a half-caster class, similar to the Ranger or Paladin, not having cantrips unless you get them through multi-classing or through a specific subclass. Their main ability score is Strength. Being able to swing a Keyblade around, it takes some muscle. The second ability score, the one you use for your spellcasting, is Wisdom. When you pick the class, your hit dice becomes a D10, and you gain proficiency in light and medium armor, simple weapons, and cook's utensils, because you gotta be able to cook with the likes of Little Chef. When you take this class at first level, you gain 2 bonuses, Keyblade proficiency and Summoning Heart. Now, what is a Keyblade in D&D? Well, a Keyblade is a magical melee weapon that deals 1d8 magical bludgeoning damage if wielded in one hand, or a d10 damage if wielded in 2. As well, they can open almost any non-magical lock, and if you're trying to unlock a magical one, you have to roll an attack roll against the lock's difficulty DC, equaling 10 plus the level spell used to lock said object. Next is Summoning Heart, which is very simple. It allows you to summon your Keyblade from almost anywhere back to your hand, aside from an anti-magic field. It also specifies that you can switch Keyblades as an action. Next, at second level you gain Spellcasting and Fighting Style. With Spellcasting, again, Wisdom is your spellcasting ability, and you can choose spells from the Keyblade Wielder spell list, which are further in this PDF, or the Paladin spell list. I wanted to give you guys some more options. As well, your Keyblade is your spellcasting focus. Fighting Style is next, which gives you a choice of list that you would from the Fighters list. At third level, you gain 2 abilities, your Keyblade Discipline, which is your subclass, and your Keyblade Armor. We'll get to disciplines in a bit, but Keyblade Armor is what we will cover now. Basically, starting at third level, by connecting with your Keyblade, you can gain armor to protect yourself. You summon a piece of armor onto your body, something like a shoulder pad, a belt, or a gauntlet, or something like that. It does not count towards your armor class in this form. Then, as an action, you slam your fist into the special armor plating, and use any spell slot of your choice. By doing this, magical plate armor will magically summon onto your person. This armor counts as plate armor in terms of stats, and you are considered proficient with it. This armor can stay on for 1 minute until you dismiss it as a bonus action. Then at 4th level, you get an ability score improvement or feat. You can do this again at 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th level. Then at 5th level, you gain extra attack, and gain another extra attack at 14th level. Now we get into some of the more interesting class abilities, starting with Shot Lock. In the games, Shot Lock is basically a focus ability that usually fires shots towards targets that you have targeted, and I did my best to convert that into D&D. Basically, starting at 6th level, you can use your full turn using your action, bonus action, and movement to target up to 6 creatures within 120 feet of you. Then you fire 6 shots that automatically hit for 1d6 radiant damage each. You could choose to have all 6 shots hit one target, 3 shots hit 2 targets each, or each shot hitting a different creature. At 10th level, this damage increases to 1d8 radiant damage, and at 17th level, it becomes 1d10 radiant damage per shot. So this basically is a full turn upgradable magical missile. Next, you get Chain of Memories. Basically, your connections you make you stronger. Starting at 7th level, when you are within 10 feet of a creature that you have fond memories of, to speak to your DM, which you count as fond, I would normally say positive memories of the person, you have a +1 bonus to attacks, rolls, and saving throws. It becomes a +2 at 13th level and a +3 at 18th level. Usually at this level in the campaign, party members should have fond memories of each other, so they should be able to get this bonus fairly often. Then at 9th level, you gain an ability that allows you a defensive bonus, this being Focus Block or Barrier. Basically, when you get hit with a melee attack, you can choose to either use Focus Block or Focus Barrier. Note, you can only do this a number of times a day, equaling half your proficiency bonus with a minimum of 1. Focus Block allows you to roll a contesting attack roll when you get hit, and if you match or go over what they roll to attack you, you block their attack and take half damage. Then you can make a melee attack roll against a creature who attacked you as a reaction. On a failed contested attack roll, you take damage as normal and you lose your reaction. Or you can attempt to do Focus Barrier to magically reflect the attack instead of blocking it. When you hit, you instead roll a contesting magical attack roll using your spell attack bonus. If you match the roll or roll higher, you block their attack completely, taking no damage by summoning a magical shield. However, you are unable to make an attack against them. On a failing check, you take half damage as normal and lose your reaction. Lastly, starting at 9th level, you can also sense strong-hearted people within 30 feet of you, being able to pass down a Keyblade down to them through a Keyblade inheritance ceremony. Now, normally you can only do this if you were a Keyblade Master, but Terra did it when he was on Master level, but he did not have the Master certification. So I thought this would be a good level to possibly have it be where, you could pass down the Keyblade if you so wanted to. So lastly, at 20th level, you have become a Keyblade Master, now gaining a flying speed of 40 feet, and you can hover off the ground at will. You can once a day use a light beam attack that deals 8d12 radiant damage on a hit with a range of 120 feet. And all Keyblade Masters share the ability to extract the hearts of themselves or others, and can also extract parts of their heart as well, similar to what Master Xehanort does. If you want a full description of this ability, you can find it in the PDF on my Patreon. Now we move up to Keyblade Disciplines, and in this video I will be covering 3 of the 6 subclasses that I have created. If you want the rest, well, you can check them out on Patreon. We'll speak on the first one, which is the Dark Heart Discipline. This one is originally based on Riku and the organization 13 members, and basically using the power of darkness in your heart to fight the darkness itself. Starting at 3rd level, you gain some extra spells to your spell list. At 3rd level, you gain the Arms of Hadar and Inflict Wounds. At 5th level, you gain Darkness and Wither and Bloom. At 9th level, you gain Hunger of Hadar and Vampiric Touch. At 13th level, you gain Blight and Shadow of Moil. And lastly, at 17th level, you gain the Evisceration and Negative Energy Flood spells. As well at 3rd level, you get the Raw Darkness ability, allowing you to change any magical or class ability damage you deal into necrotic damage, harnessing that inner darkness. At 7th level, you gain the Dark Portals ability, which allows you to summon dark corridors that could transport you 120 feet, or with a full minute of concentration, you could transport 50 miles if you know where you're going. If you close a portal on the person, they will be pushed back 5 feet from the portal and be unharmed. As well at this level, you can cast Darkness twice a day without using a spell slot. Next at 11th level, we have the Dark Sense. As an action, you can close your eyes and focus, and you can sense intense darkness. When you do this, undead creatures within 60-foot radius of you are revealed to you in up to 6 creatures of your choice, having a glowing outline in those affected sight. You must have concentration to keep this glowing active. As these creatures glow, you and creatures that can see the glow have advantage on their first attack roll against said creatures, kinda similar to an area of effect of Guiding Bolt or Fairy Fire. Then we have Dark Resistances at 15th level, which gives you immunity to necrotic damage, as the darkness can no longer harm you. And when you cast a spell that deals necrotic damage, it deals 2 extra damage dice of damage. For example, if you cast Blight at 4th level, instead of doing 8d8 necrotic damage, it'll do 10d8 necrotic damage instead. Lastly, for this ability, you can cast Darkness a 3rd time without using spell slot. More! At 19th level, you gain the True Darkness ability. You are now a master of controlling your inner darkness and can use it to your advantage. Once you gain this ability, you can add the spells Clone and Maddening Darkness to your spell list, being able to cast them with a 5th level spell slot rather than their normal spell slot requirements. Clone because of how Master Xehanort decided to sprinkle a little bit of Nort on all sorts of other organization members, and Maddening Darkness because if you throw someone into the darkness, they're eventually going to go mad. I mean, look at fucking Aqua. Well, it got intercepted, but you know what I mean. Next, your portals from your Dark Portals ability can go from 50 miles to anywhere, as long as you know where you're going. This can even go across worlds or other planes. Your Dark Sense ability from 11th level now goes up to 120 foot radius, and you no longer have to have concentration for the ability to be active. As well, you are now immune to your heart being removed from your body unwillingly. Example, if another Keyblade Master attempts to use their ability to remove a section of your heart or remove your heart altogether by the effect of the Keyblade Master ability, this effect will automatically fail unless you decide for it to succeed. On a fail, the creature attempting to get at your heart will take 8d10 necrotic damage as the darkness on your heart bites back. Now we move on to the Light Heart discipline, which many see as the base for the Keyblade wielder. These Keyblade wielders are ones that fight for the light, trying their best to keep the balance between light and darkness. When you take the subclass at 3rd level, you gain a group of spells. At 3rd level, you gain the spells Sanctuary and Silvery Barbs, because talk no jutsu but in Kingdom Hearts speak. At 5th level, you gain the Calm Emotion spell and Misty Step. At 9th level, you gain the spells Beacon of Hope and Fast Friends. At 13th level, you gain the spells Guardians of Faith and Sickening Radiance. And lastly, at 17th level, you gain Dawn and Wall of Light. All these spells usually have something to do with light or talking through issues, which I feel many Keyblade wielders would try to do first before resorting to swinging Keyblades. As well, at 3rd level, you gain the Raw Light ability. When you cast a spell of any kind, or when you use a class ability, you can change any damage to radiant damage. You can change the magical type of Wrathful Smite to Psychic to Radiant if you so prefer, as an example. Lastly, you gain the Light and Guidance cantrips. Next at 7th level, you gain the Inner Power ability, which allows you to use your hit dice as a resource. As a bonus action, when you land a melee attack with your Keyblade, you may use a number of hit dice equaling or less than your proficiency bonus to add radiant damage to your attack. Example, if you have +3 as your proficiency bonus, and you hit an attack with your Keyblade, you may spend 3 of your hit dice to roll them as damage for your attack, dealing an extra 3d10 radiant damage. You can only do this as long as you have hit dice, and you can only be used once per turn, basically acting as a good level smite, but if you use up all your hit dice, you'll have nothing to regain when you are taking a short rest. Next we have the ability Healing of the Heart. Starting at 11th level, you can use your inner light to save yourself or another creature. Using your action, bonus action, and movement, you can use a number of hit dice equaling or less than your proficiency bonus to heal yourself or another creature within 30 feet of you. When this creature is healed by this, they radiate a soft light, making the next attack against the creature have disadvantage, as a blinding light flashes in the creature's eyes. Basically doing this, you heal a creature using your spare hit dice, making it so that those hit dice are used, but you use them for healing instead of damage. At 15th level, you begin to harness light in new ways. As an action, you can spend a spell slot of your choice to cover you and up to 6 of your allies into a blinding light. Creatures attacking those covered in light have disadvantage on attack rolls until that creature is hit once. To keep this light active, you must have concentration. After a creature covered in light is hit, the light fades. As well, you get immunity from radiant damage, as you control the light within yourself fully, allowing it not to harm you. Lastly, you can cast the spell Guiding Bolt a number of times a day, equaling your proficiency bonus without using a spell slot. Kind of like the Circle of Stars Druid, per se. Lastly, at 19th level, you gain the True Light ability. Starting at 19th level, you can add the spells Crown of Stars and Sunburst into your spell list, being able to cast them in your 5th level spell slot rather than the normal spell slot requirements. Next, you can attempt to find the light in someone's heart and pull them out of a condition applied to them or break the control over them someone might have. If the creature is stuck in a sleeping-like state or is under control of another creature, an example is if a creature is on the effect of the Crown of Madness or the Dream of Blue Veil spells, you can make a persuasion check against the spell save DC, and on a success, you break the hold on the creature the spell has, basically dispelling the spell. Lastly, the ability to cover your allies in light from your Light of Radiance ability now stays alight after getting hit. It can only be stopped if you drop concentration. The last of the 3 subclasses we're going to be covering is the Dual Heart Discipline. This discipline is mainly based on Roxas, but minorly on the drive forms that Kingdom Hearts 2 have, but mostly on Roxas and his abilities from the fight in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. Starting at 3rd level, you gain some spells that you automatically get added to your spell list. At 3rd level, you gain Guiding Bolt and Disguise Self. At 5th level, you gain Invisibility and Pass Without Trace. At 9th, you get Haste and Sending. At 13th, you get Banishment and Dimension Door. And lastly, at 17th level, you gain Hold Monster and Scrying. Also at 3rd level, you gain the Raw Duality class ability. You have harnessed your inner duality into your fighting style. You can now dual-wield Keyblades, allowing you to attack with a Keyblade in your offhand as a bonus action, even if it doesn't have the light property. As well, your attack bonus for your Keyblade attacks now use Dexterity instead of Strength, because your attacks are more about finesse rather than raw strength. Lastly, you can cast the spell Detect Evil and Good once a day without using a spell slot. Then at 7th level, you gain the class ability called Duality's Reflecta. Starting at 7th level, you can now let loose a swing your Keyblades along to your enemy's back. As an action, you swing your Keyblades around you in a circular motion, and creatures of your choice within 15 feet of you must make a Dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, they are pushed back 30 feet and take 2d6 bludgeoning damage. On a passing save, they are pushed back only 15 feet and take only half damage. You can do this a number of times a day, equaling your proficiency bonus. Then at 11th level, you gain the Dual Rake ability. You can call upon the light and darkness in your heart to bring down a laser from the sky. Light! You choose up to 3 creatures within 120 feet of you, and those creatures must make a Dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, they take 4d6 radiant damage and 4d6 necrotic damage as a beam of light and darkness comes down from the sky and slams into these creatures. In the past, they will take half damage. You can do this a number of times a day, equaling half your proficiency bonus rounded down, with a minimum of 2 at 11th level. So basically this is like a fireball but made of light and darkness and targeted instead of an area of effect. Next up at 15th level, you get Duality Twister. You rise above the others and rain down light and darkness upon those in your way. Once a day, you use your action, bonus action, and movement to float 15 feet upwards and spin your Keyblades in each hand. As you do, 10 twisting bolts of light and darkness fire from your Keyblades. You choose any amount of targets below 10. Each of those creatures are hit with a bolt, each bolt dealing 1d6 radiant and necrotic damage each. Example, if there are 5 targets, you can hit one with 6 bolts and 4 of them to one other creature for the remaining bolts. Or you can fire all bolts at one creature, or 1 bolt at 10 separate creatures. At the end of your turn, you float down to the space you occupied before floating upwards. So basically this does 20d6 damage. So that is a big hit if you hit it all in one person. Lastly, at 19th level, you gain the Trinity class feature. You call upon the spirits of previous Keyblade wielders to aid you in battle. As a bonus action, you call upon a 3rd Keyblade that floats behind you. It acts similarly to the spiritual weapon spell, except it stays attached to your person, and it attacks when you make an attack. You must roll for it separately than your normal attacks, and it deals radiant or necrotic damage, your choice, rather than force damage. This Keyblade lasts for 1 full minute or till you dismiss it as a bonus action. You can do this a number of times a day, equaling half your proficiency bonus with a minimum of 2. Now we move on to spells, which we'll cover a few from the spells from the PDF, but not all. I made a majority of the spells from the games, but didn't do all because some of the spells are extremely similar to spells already in D&D. We will begin with the Balloon spell, which is introduced in Dream Drop Distance, and is well known for being overpowered in the base game before the remakes. I wanted to make sure the spell was still usable, but also had some of that base power from the original game. So I made it a 3rd level spell. It has a range of 30 feet, takes an empty balloon to cast, and lasts a minute. 3 balloons of magical energy are summoned within 30 feet of you. These balloons take up a 5-foot space and explode if within 5 feet of a creature. Those within 5 feet of the exploding balloon take 3d8 thunder damage. These balloons move randomly, floating in random directions 5 feet at a time. Roll a d4 on the chart below for each balloon at the start of each of your turns. Depending on the roll, the balloon will float in that direction. 1 being north, 2 being south, 3 being east, and 4 being west. At higher levels, you can summon more balloons, 1 for each spell level above 3rd, so a max of 5. Next we have Fire, which is a 1st level spell and has a range of 30 feet and is instant. A small fireball is launched from the tip of your weapon towards an enemy of your choice within range. You choose a creature you can see within 30 feet of you, and you make a ranged spell attack against that creature, and on a hit, the creature takes 3d6 fire damage as the small fireball slams into them. I know a lot of you might say, wow Stone, 3d6 is a lot of damage for a first level spell, isn't it a bit overpowered? Well, I understand where you're coming from, but I also thought about it like this. This is a Keyblade Wielder exclusive spell, and a paladin spell like Searing Smite does weapon attack damage, such as a d8 for a longsword, then fire damage from the Searing Smite, which is a d6, and then keep doing damage over the turns. If the saving throws keep getting failed, doing another d6 over time. This spell is just one attack, and eventually that will take up your action, which could be 2 of your melee attacks, or class ability, or anything like that. So I had to make the spell worth using instead of those options, because of the spell slots, the attacks are very limited when using magic. So I feel like since there are limited uses, the use of your full action instead of the attacks, and the comparison to other spells like Searing Smite, I feel like yes, it's a strong spell in the early game, but mid to late game, it isn't very strong, even with the upgraded versions of the second or higher level spell slots. Spark is next, and it's the second level spell and has a range of 15 feet and is instant. When you cast a spell, you summon 2 crystals of light, each 15 feet away from you, being equidistant from each other. These crystals then spin around you quickly. Any creature within that 30-foot wide circle must make a dexterity saving throw, or take 4d8 radiant damage on a fail, so crystals spin around and crashes into them. On a pass, they take half damage. Basically, you Beyblade, let it light! If you use the power, just using the power of light. Lastly, showing off, we're going to be using Zeta Flare, the only spell that is used by another class other than Keyblade Wielders in this PDF, being only be able to cast it by wizards. It takes an action to cast, goes in a 300-foot line, and you summon an enchanting circle on the ground surrounding you, expanding out to 15 feet, then you focus. Then you point your magical focus towards a creature you can see within range, and you fire a powerful beam of fire towards the creature. You shoot out a 300-foot long, 10-foot wide line of fire and heat, and anyone in said spaces must make a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC, or take 12d12 fire damage on a fail and half as much on a success. If the creature is reduced to 0 hit points by the spell, they are reduced to ashes. This is of course based on the Zeta Flare, casted by Donald freaking Duck in Kingdom Hearts 3. Now we move on to Keyblades, and this is a 20-page long section that holds a majority of the Keyblades in the mainline Kingdom Hearts series. Most of them are doing something different from each other. Keyblades do 1d8 magical bludgeoning damage and are versatile, dealing 1d10 bludgeoning if wielded in both hands, and there are base Keyblades in this PDF with ones like the Kingdom Key, Starlight, Braveheart, Wayward Wind, and other base Keyblades you can get at the beginning of the games that don't have any +1s or +2s that most other Keyblades have, because we don't want them to have all that power at the beginning. So if they are not making their own Keyblade, I would suggest giving them one of those so they do not have +1s and +2s to start out with. Using this PDF, you can make your own Keyblades that will automatically level up as you grow in levels, that being a +1 at 6th level, a +2 at 11th level, and a +3 at 17th level. We will start with Bond of Flame. All these Keyblades, by the way, all come with a quote from the game series, either from the character itself or from a movie they came from. I wanted to see Roxas, he was the only one I liked. He made it feel like I had a heart, it's kind of funny. You make me feel the same. Kyrie's in the castle and dungeon. Now go! This Keyblade is usually found by people who face a great sacrifice of some kind, or deal with someone with a true heart of fire. This Keyblade is a +1 weapon, having a range of 5 feet, and does piercing damage rather than bludgeoning. I mean, look at those spikes. Lastly, when you wield this Keyblade, when you cast a spell that does fire damage, it deals 2 extra damage of the fire damage of the spell's dice type. Next we have Decisive Pumpkin, which comes from a quote from Jack Skellington. Just because I cannot see it does not mean I do not believe it. This Keyblade is usually found by people who love a bit of fright or holiday joy, or in a Halloween Town world. This Keyblade is a +2 weapon, has a range of 5 feet, and once a day while wielding this Keyblade you may cast a Fear spell at 3rd level without using a spell slot. Next we have the Ends of the Earth, with a quote from Terra. It is still my heart. You think you could just come in and take over? I'm not going to sit by and let that happen. This Keyblade is usually found by people who have faced many hardships but have fought to them to the best of their ability. This Keyblade is a +2 weapon, has a range of 5 feet, and this Keyblade can be changed to a different form, being able to transform into a shoulder-mounted cannon as an action. This cannon has a range of 120 feet and fires a ball of light, dealing 8d6 radiant damage on a hit. After it fires, it returns to its Keyblade form and can only transform again after a long rest. This is based off the Lingering Will from Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3. Next we have Fenrir, which is a legendary Keyblade. Absurd, defeating me is meaningless. You know that more than anyone, which I believe is a quote from Sephiroth. if I'm not mistaken. This is a Keyblade, it's a +3 weapon, has a range of 10 feet, and once a day, this Keyblade allows you to cast Bones of the Earth spell at 6th level. Lastly, when you manage to hit all your attacks in your turn, this Keyblade allows you to make 1 extra attack. Next we have the Master's Defender, a legendary artifact item, because this Keyblade is one of the few Keyblades that are artifacts because of how old they are and where they come from. Really, I'm not so sure about that. Besides, who's to say I can't change it? Maybe light will prevail, which is a quote from Master Ericus. The Keyblade is one of the most powerful Keyblades wielded by many Keyblade masters such as Master Ava, Brain, Ephemer, and Ericus Stone. Jesus! This Keyblade is a +5 weapon that has a range of 10 feet. While wielding this Keyblade, you are immune to radiant damage or anything that will put a condition onto you, such as being poisoned or frightened. Secondly, you can use this Keyblade to change the world's form using its keyhole. You can transform a world into anything you see fit as long as it's within reason and is habitable. Lastly, this Keyblade can consistently be passed down from Keyblade Master to Keyblade Master rather than being found. Next, we have the Oathkeeper, something everyone looks forward to. It's a very rare Keyblade. It has a quote from Sora, if I'm not mistaken. Kyrie, remember what you said before? I'm always with you too. I'll come back to you, I promise. This Keyblade is usually found by people who make a promise that they intend to keep, with that being signified in this Keyblade. This Keyblade is a +2 weapon, has a range of 5 feet, and does piercing damage rather than bludgeoning. Once a day while wielding this Keyblade, you can restore 1d2 spell slots of your choice using an action. Example, if you're 5th level, you can restore 1 2nd level spell slot and 1 1st level spell slot if you roll a 2 on the d2. Up next is Oblivion, another one that people look out for a lot. We have a very rare Keyblade. This is a quote, I believe, that comes from Roxas. When Axel gets back, let's ask him. Then all 3 of us can have ice cream together. This Keyblade can be found by people who have a bond that they have reunited with, and they can be signified in this Keyblade. This Keyblade is a +2 weapon, has a range of 5 feet, and does slashing damage rather than bludgeoning. Once a day while wielding this Keyblade, you can use the spell Staggering Smite without using a spell slot. It deals necrotic damage rather than psychic damage. Then we have Wheel of Fate. It has a quote from Jack Sparrow, I believe. It's a very rare Keyblade, and this Keyblade is usually found by people who travel the 7 seas or in the Caribbean world. This Keyblade is a +2 weapon, has a range of 5 feet, and once a day while wielding this Keyblade, you can change this Keyblade's form into a staff. The staff allows you to bash enemies, dealing 3d8 bludgeoning damage on a hit, has a range of 10 feet, and the staff form lasts for 1 minute until you dismiss it as a bonus action. Up next, we have the Bestiary, and I have made a good amount of Heartless and Nobodies from this section. I did not do Unversed, but if you guys want me to update this project in the future, I will, and we will start with the Heartless and their traits. All Heartless are considered undead and are neutral evil. Most have the Pack Tactics ability and Shadow Stealth abilities, and are immune to things like Charmed and being poisoned. They also have Dark Vision out to 60 feet. We will start out with the Armored Archer, a medium undead, with the armor class of 10, 9 hit points, and a speed of 30 feet. It has a challenge rating of 1/2. It has the Pack Tactics and Shadow Stealth abilities, and it has the Dark Arrow ranged weapon attack, which does a +2 to hit, it reaches 30 feet, and it does 1d4 +2 piercing damage. This is a very early game enemy. From an early game enemy to a late game enemy, we have the Behemoth, a huge undead, and it has an armor class of 15, 114 hit points, and a speed of 30 feet. It's a challenge rating 8. It has the aggressive ability, a charge ability, a freedom of movement ability, a sensitive horn that basically says when this creature takes double damage when it is hit on top of the head, specifically its horn. It has a multi-attack, and it can do a gore attack, which is a +8 to hit, has a range of 10 feet, and deals 2d10 +5 piercing damage, and then a stomp attack, which has a +8 to hit, range of 5 feet, and does 2d12 +5 bludgeoning damage. Next we have a special Heartless called the Dark Copy. Its armor class is the same as the player it's chosen to be copied, its hit points are double the chosen player's health, and its speed is the same as the chosen player it's decided to copy. The copy has basically the attacks of the chosen person it's chosen to copy's attacks. Basically a Keyblade attack, any class ability attack, stuff like that. Its spells are half the spell slots available for the copied player. Spell save DC 14. And it has the same reactions as the player character. So basically this is a player character, a dark player character you can throw at your party. To basically be like, hey, dark copies can be made of you. Next we have the Darkling, which is one from Union Cross. It has armor class 15, 36 hit points, and it's a challenge rating of 4. It's an ambusher, has dark cunning action, which means on each of turns, and if in dark conditions, the Darkling can use a bonus action to hit the dash, disengage, or hide action. It has the Key Origins ability. Darklings come from Keyblade wielders who like too much darkness get into their heart. If one allows darkness to enter their heart, they will become a Darkling. Because of this creature has resistance against attacks made by Keyblades, so it'll take only half damage from Keyblade attacks. It's also the only Heartless that speaks of language and that is common, because Darklings can actually speak. They have a Claw attack and a Luck Shot attack. Next we have a classic, it is Darkside, the early game boss. He's a huge undead, neutral evil, 15 armor class, 90 hit points, and has a challenge rating of 5. It has Summon Heartless. As an action, Darkside can summon 1d6 Shadow Heartless from its fist, referencing what it can do in game. It has Sure-footed, which means it cannot easily be knocked prone. It has its fist attack and then its Dark Blast attack, basically doing the attacks found in the early stages of the game. Next we have the Fat Body, which is a common Heartless found in the games. It has an armor class of 12, has 30 HP, and has a speed of 15 feet. It has a challenge rating of 2, and it has the ability Front Immunity, which means it cannot be damaged from the front, all attacks bouncing off the Fat Body's belly. It has a Belly Bump attack, which does 1d6 plus 1 bludgeoning damage. Next we have the classic Neo Shadow. It's armor class of 12 and 31 hit points. Its speed of 30 feet, its challenge rating of 2. It's aggressive, has high jumps, which means it is always under the effect of the jump spell, and has a claw attack that does 1d8 plus 2 slashing damage. Next we have the other two most common Heartless, that being the Shadow and the Soldier. The Shadow is a small undead which has an armor class of 8, has 7 hit points, and has 30 feet of movement. It is a 1/8 challenge rating, and only has a claw attack that does 1d4 minus 1 slashing damage. Next we have the Soldier, which is a bit stronger, having a 10 armor class but only 9 hit points, being a medium undead. It's a 1/4 challenge rating. It has a claw attack that just does a flat d4 slashing damage. Next we move on to the nobodies, and I made a stat block for every single nobody because there was a lot less nobodies than there are Heartless. I mean, jeez. These things are everywhere. First up we have the Creeper, which is a medium undead. It is a neutral evil just like the Heartless. It has armor class of 13, 26 hit points, and has a challenge rating of 2. It has the Ground Glide ability. The creeper can float on top of non-magical ground. While doing so, the creeper cannot disturb the material it moves on top of. When on top of the ground, unless one of its heads is sticking out, it cannot be attacked but targeted by spells that are not area of effect. Old nobodies also have the ability called Strange Geometry. Creepers can contort their bodies to fit in most areas, being able to fit in 1 inch by 1 inch squares without squeezing. They also have the Sword Form Slash, which does 1d8 plus 3 slashing damage. No, this is the weakest of the nobodies, so they are much stronger than Heartless to begin with. We learned that from the Battle of 1000 Heartless. Up next we have the Dancer, a medium undead, a 15 armor class, 78 hit points, and a speed of 30 feet, and a challenge rating of 5. It has Cunning Action, Multi-Attack. The multi-attack, it can either make 2 attacks, 2 with its dancing kick or 1 with its forced dance attack. The dancing kick is basically just a spinning kick attack, which does 1d10 plus 3 bludgeoning damage. Then forced dance, a creature within 10 feet of the dancer must make a DC 14 wisdom saving throw, or be forced to dance with the dancer. At the beginning of the affected creature's turn, they may remake the save, and on a pass they will take 10 or 3d6 bludgeoning damage, and be launched 10 feet back as the dancer kicks them as they escape. Only one creature at a time can be affected by the dancer's forced dance at a time. Up next we have the Dusk, one of the lower level of the nobodies, and people can be transformed into Dusk as punishment. They have a 14 armor class, 45 hit points, and a speed of 30 feet. They are a challenge rating of 3. They have the Ambush ability, and Strange Geometry of course, and they also have the special ability Reversal. The Dusk can become confused and can attack if a creature circles it with its movement. So if a creature spins around it, like in the game, it'll get confused and cannot attack you. It has a Whip Slap ability, a Whip Slap attack mind you, and has a d6 to hit, a reach of 5 feet, and deals 1d12 plus 3 slashing damage. Next we have the Ninja, which is a challenge rating of 6, has an armor class of 15, 78 hit points, and has the Ambusher ability and has Sneak Attack. Once per turn, whenever a ninja attacks, it can deal an extra 10 or 3d6 damage to one creature it hits with Knife Attack if it has advantage on an attack roll or is an ally within 5 feet of the target that isn't incapacitated. It has Multi-Attack, which has a Knife Attack, which does 1d8, which can be used for its Sneak Attack, a Kunai, which has a range of 60 feet and deals 2d6 plus 4 slashing damage, Then Shadow Clones. The ninja can summon 2 Shadow Clones for backup. These clones have 1 HP and the ninja's knife and kunai attacks, and take the initiative right after the ninja. Lastly, we have the Sorcerer, a medium undead, and has an arm class of 15, 130 hit points, and a fly speed of 30 feet. These are challenge rating 9. They have the Cube Wielder ability. The Sorcerer wields 10 transparent red cubes that are 2 feet cubed. These cubes are fully under the Sorcerer's mental control. It can float, move, and change shape as a bonus action. These cubes can move 30 feet at a time and can be used as an action to raise the AC by 4 at the start of its next turn. The Sorcerer has innate spellcasting. Its innate spellcasting ability is Charisma, spell save DC 17 with +7 to hit, and it can innately cast the following spells. At will, it can cast Hex, Mage Armor, and Magic Missile. 3 times a day, it can cast Counterspell, Fireball, and Pulse Wave, and once a day, it can cast Destructive Wave. It is immune to magic spells, and cannot be detected by magical spells either. It can smack people with its cubes, dealing 3d6 + 1 bludgeoning damage, and the Honing Cubes attack, which is a rechargeable ability. These cubes are controlled by Sorcerer and hone around target with 60 feet of the Sorcerer, and automatically hits the creature at the start of the Sorcerer's next turn, and then the creature it gets targeted takes 24 or 76 bludgeoning damage. Wow, we got another homebrew done, and the next one is on the poly-sided horizon. We got some things for you guys to vote on. First off, we got a Skull the Hero Slayer homebrew with some magical items and maybe even a bestiary. A Sonic the Hedgehog homebrew with a Morbian race and maybe some of the magical items. Maybe 7 Chaos Emeralds. A Shaolin Showdown homebrew with a Monk subclass and a bunch of magical items from the show. Or a Soul Eater homebrew with a Meister and weapon class and maybe some other stuff from the anime. Feel free to vote in the comments, but the main vote will be on my Patreon, where you can get today's PDF and all my previous work. I would like to thank my Patreon supporter, Grim, and the artist for the Dive to the Heart stone art from Aria Arts on Twitter. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Support your local game shops, enjoy your adventures, and roll safely. Safe travels!